In a world where love often battles against the odds, the story of Sebastian and Aurora unfolds like a breathtaking romance novel, filled with passion, resilience, and the undeniable power of connection. Imagine a young woman, fiercely independent yet vulnerable, who finds herself at a crossroads after being thrust into a life of luxury that feels more like a gilded cage. Enter Sebastian, a billionaire heir torn between family expectations and his heart's true desire. As they navigate the stormy waters of societal pressures, family disapproval, and personal sacrifices, their journey becomes a testament to the strength of love. Will they rise above the challenges that threaten to tear them apart, or will they succumb to the weight of their circumstances? Join us as we dive into a tale that promises to inspire, uplift, and remind us all that true love knows no boundaries. Get ready to be swept away by a story that proves, when two hearts unite, they can conquer even the most daunting obstacle. The city of New York was alive with its usual chaos. The early morning light filtered through the rain-soaked streets, casting a shimmering glow on the towering skyscrapers. Horns blared, people rushed past each other, and the hum of the city created a symphony of movement. Yet amidst the hustle and bustle, Aurora Hayes stood still, her umbrella barely shielding her from the drizzle. She wasn't in a rush like the others. Instead, she was lost in thought, her mind swirling with the weight of her dreams and the harsh reality of her life. Aurora was a painter, a dreamer, and a fighter. Her small art studio in Brooklyn was her sanctuary, a place where she could escape the noise of the world and pour her soul onto the canvas. The walls of her studio were lined with unfinished paintings, vivid landscapes, abstract portraits, and bold splashes of color that reflected her emotions. But despite her talent, Aurora struggled to make a name for herself in the competitive art world. Bills piled up, gallery owners dismissed her work, and the pressure to succeed often felt suffocating. Her life hadn't always been this way. Aurora had grown up in a small town in Vermont, surrounded by the love of her parents. Her mother, a nurse, had been her biggest supporter, always encouraging her to follow her passion for art. But when her mother passed away unexpectedly 5 years ago, Aurora's world crumbled. She moved to New York, hoping to find inspiration and a fresh start, but the city had proven to be as unforgiving as it was inspiring. This morning, as she walked through the streets of Manhattan, Aurora's thoughts were consumed by her upcoming art exhibition. It was a small show at a local gallery, but it was her chance to prove herself. She had poured everything into her work, staying up late into the night to perfect each piece. Yet the fear of failure loomed large, casting a shadow over her excitement. What if no one came? What if no one cared? The questions gnawed at her, making her doubt herself. Meanwhile, across the city, Sebastian Cole was preparing for another day in his meticulously planned life. Sebastian was a billionaire tech entrepreneur, the founder of one of the most successful software companies in the world. His name was synonymous with innovation, power, and wealth. But behind the polished exterior and the headlines that celebrated his achievements, Sebastian was a man haunted by his past. Born into a family of privilege, Sebastian had always felt like an outsider. His father, a ruthless businessman, had instilled in him the belief that emotions were a weakness. Love, vulnerability, and compassion were luxuries that had no place in the Cole family. Sebastian had spent his life trying to prove himself, building an empire that rivaled his father's, but the cost had been high. He had sacrificed relationships, happiness, and his own sense of self in the pursuit of success. Now, at 34, Sebastian was at the top of his game, but he felt empty. His days were filled with meetings, deals, and endless demands, but his nights were lonely. He lived in a penthouse that overlooked the city, a symbol of his success, but it felt more like a gilded cage. The only solace he found was in his late-night drives through the city, a chance to escape the pressures of his life and feel a sense of freedom, even if only for a moment. On this particular morning, fate was about to intervene. As Aurora walked through the rain-slicked streets, her umbrella barely holding up against the wind, she noticed a sleek black Aston Martin speeding down the road. The car's engine roared, cutting through the sound of the rain, and for a moment it seemed like just another luxury vehicle in a city full of them. But then, something went wrong. The car hit a patch of standing water, and in an instant it began to spin out of control. Aurora froze, her heart pounding as she watched the scene unfold. The car skidded across the wet pavement, its tires screeching as it hydroplaned toward the curb. Time seemed to slow as the vehicle slammed into a lamppost with a deafening crash. Aurora's instincts kicked in. Without thinking, she dropped her umbrella and ran toward the wreckage, her shoes splashing through puddles as she moved. The rain pelted her face, but she didn't care. All she could think about was the person inside the car. As she reached the driver's side door, she saw him, Sebastian Cole, unconscious and slumped over the steering wheel. Blood trickled from a gash on his forehead, staining the crisp white collar of his shirt. "Are you okay?" Aurora shouted, her voice trembling with urgency. She tried the door handle, but it was jammed. Gritting her teeth, she pulled with all her strength until the door finally gave way with a groan of protesting metal. The interior light flickered on, revealing Sebastian's face, strong, angular features that held a commanding presence even in unconsciousness. Aurora's heart raced as she checked his pulse. It was strong but rapid, and his breathing was steady. Her medical training, a skill she had picked up from years of watching her mother, took over. She gently tilted his head back to keep his airway open and checked for any signs of spinal trauma. The head wound looked superficial, but she knew better than to trust appearances. "Stay with me," she murmured, her voice soft but firm. "Help is on the way." As the rain continued to pour, Aurora felt a strange sense of calm wash over her. She didn't know who this man was, or why she felt so compelled to help him, but something about him stirred a deep sense of empathy within her. She held his hand tightly, her fingers trembling as she whispered words of reassurance. When the sound of sirens filled the air, Aurora felt a surge of relief. The paramedics arrived quickly, taking over as they worked to stabilize Sebastian and prepare him for transport. But as they loaded him into the ambulance, Aurora made a decision that would change her life forever. "I'm his wife," she said, the words slipping out before she could stop herself. The paramedics glanced at her, their expressions a mix of skepticism and concern, but they didn't question her. They allowed her to climb into the ambulance, and as it sped through the rain-soaked streets toward the hospital, Aurora couldn't help but wonder what she had just gotten herself into. Little did she know, this moment of bravery and impulsiveness would set off a chain of events that would intertwine her life with Sebastian's in ways she could never have imagined. The ambulance raced through the rain-soaked streets of New York, the sirens wailing as they navigated the chaotic traffic. Aurora sat beside Sebastian, her heart pounding in her chest. She watched as the paramedics worked quickly, their hands moving with practiced efficiency. They checked his vitals, applied pressure to his head wound, and reassured her that he would be okay. "Stay with me, Sebastian," Aurora whispered, her voice barely audible over the sound of the sirens. She felt a strange connection to this man, a bond that seemed to transcend the circumstances of their meeting. As the ambulance jolted over potholes, she reached out and took his hand, feeling the warmth of his skin against her own. Sebastian stirred slightly, his eyelids fluttering as he began to regain consciousness. Where am I?" he mumbled, his voice hoarse and disoriented. "You are in an ambulance," Aurora replied, her heart racing at the sound of his voice. "You were in an accident, but you're going to be okay. Just focus on my voice." He blinked a few times, his gray eyes meeting hers with a mix of confusion and pain. "Who are you?" he asked, his brow furrowing as he tried to piece together what had happened. "I'm Aurora," she said, squeezing his hand gently. "I saw the accident and came to help. You're going to be fine, just hang in there." As they arrived at the hospital, the paramedics wheeled Sebastian into the emergency room, and Aurora followed closely behind, her heart racing with worry. The fluorescent lights of the hospital were harsh, illuminating the chaos of the ER as doctors and nurses rushed to attend to the incoming patients. Aurora felt a wave of anxiety wash over her, but she pushed it aside, focusing on Sebastian. "Please let me stay with him," she pleaded with a nurse, her voice trembling. The nurse hesitated but eventually nodded, allowing her to follow Sebastian as they wheeled him into a treatment room. Once inside, Aurora watched as the medical team worked quickly to assess Sebastian's injuries. They cleaned his wound, stitched it up, and monitored his vitals. Aurora stood to the side, her heart aching as she saw the pain etched on his face. She wanted to reach out and comfort him, but she felt like an intruder in this world of medical professionals. After what felt like an eternity, the doctors finally stepped back, allowing Sebastian to rest. He was still groggy from the medication, but his eyes flickered open as he caught sight of Aurora. "You're still here," he said, a hint of surprise in his voice. "Of course I am," she replied, a smile breaking through her worry. "I'm not going anywhere." As the hours passed, Aurora stayed by his side, talking to him about everything and nothing. She shared stories about her life, her art, and her dreams, while he listened intently, his expression softening as he absorbed her words. In those moments, the hospital room faded away, and it felt as if they were the only two people in the world. Sebastian began to open up about his life as well. He spoke of his childhood, the pressure to succeed, and the loneliness that often accompanied his wealth. "People see the money and the success, but they don't see the sacrifices," he admitted, his voice tinged with sadness. "I've spent so much time building this empire, but I've lost sight of what really matters." Aurora nodded, understanding the weight of his words. "Sometimes it takes a moment like this to remind us of what's important," she said softly. "You're not alone anymore, Sebastian. You have me." As the sun began to set outside the hospital window, casting a warm glow over the room, Aurora felt a sense of hope blossoming between them. Their connection deepened, and she realized that this unexpected encounter had the potential to change both of their lives forever. But as the night wore on, the reality of their situation began to sink in. Aurora knew that once Sebastian was discharged, their lives would return to normal, and the world outside would pull them in different directions. She couldn't shake the feeling that their time together was fleeting, and she was determined to make the most of it. "Can I ask you something?" Sebastian said, breaking the comfortable silence that had settled between them. "Anything," Aurora replied, her heart racing. "Why did you say you were my wife back at the accident?" he asked, his gaze piercing into hers. "You didn't even know me." Aurora hesitated, her mind racing. She had acted on instinct, but now the weight of her words felt heavy. I didn't want you to be alone," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "I wanted to be there for you, and in that moment, it felt right." Sebastian studied her for a moment, his expression softening. "You're a remarkable woman, Aurora," he said, his voice filled with sincerity. "Thank you for being here. You've made this experience bearable." As they exchanged smiles, Aurora felt a warmth spreading through her chest. She had come to the hospital to help a stranger, but in doing so, she had found a connection that felt profound and real. Little did she know, this moment would be the catalyst for a journey that would challenge everything she thought she knew about love, trust, and the power of vulnerability. As the days turned into weeks, Aurora found herself visiting Sebastian at the hospital every day. Each visit brought them closer, and their conversations flowed effortlessly, filled with laughter, shared dreams, and moments of vulnerability. Aurora learned about Sebastian's life as a tech mogul, the pressures he faced from his family, and the loneliness that often accompanied his success. In return, she shared her struggles as an artist, the challenges of making a name for herself, and the deep-seated fear of failure that haunted her. Sebastian was captivated by Aurora's passion for art. He admired her talent and the way she saw the world through a unique lens. "You have a gift, Aurora," he told her one afternoon as they sat together in his hospital room, the sunlight streaming through the window. "Your paintings have the power to evoke emotions that words can't express." Aurora blushed at his compliment, feeling a warmth spread through her. "Thank you, Sebastian. Art has always been my escape, my way of processing the world around me. It's where I find my voice." As Sebastian's recovery progressed, he began to open up about his family. "My parents have always had high expectations for me," he confessed, his voice tinged with frustration. "They want me to follow in my father's footsteps, to take over the family business. But I've always felt like I'm living someone else's dream." Aurora listened intently, her heart aching for him. "You deserve to pursue your own dreams, Sebastian. You don't have to live up to anyone else's expectations. It's your life." Their bond deepened with each passing day, and Aurora found herself falling for Sebastian in ways she never anticipated. He was charming, intelligent, and had a vulnerability that drew her in. But as their relationship blossomed, so did the shadows lurking in the background. Sebastian's family began to express their disapproval of Aurora. His mother, Evelyn Cole, was particularly vocal about her disdain for the relationship. She viewed Aurora as an outsider, someone who didn't belong in their world of privilege and power. The first time Evelyn visited Sebastian in the hospital, Aurora felt the tension in the air as soon as she entered the room. "Sebastian, darling, how are you feeling?" Evelyn asked, her voice dripping with concern, but her eyes narrowed as they landed on Aurora. "I hope you're not letting this girl distract you from your recovery?" Aurora felt a chill run down her spine at the way Evelyn spoke. She forced a smile, trying to remain composed. "I'm just here to help, Mrs. Cole. Sebastian has been through a lot, and I want to make sure he's okay." Evelyn's expression hardened. "I appreciate your concern, but I hope you understand that my son has a future to think about. He doesn't need any distractions right now." Sebastian's jaw tightened, and he shot a warning glance at his mother. "Mom, Aurora is not a distraction. She's been here for me when no one else has. I need her support." Evelyn huffed, crossing her arms. "You're making a mistake, Sebastian. This girl is not part of our world. You need to focus on your recovery and your responsibilities." Aurora felt her heart sink as the tension in the room escalated. She could see the conflict in Sebastian's eyes, the struggle between his loyalty to his family and his growing feelings for her. It was a battle she didn't want to be a part of, but she couldn't ignore the reality of their situation. After Evelyn left, Aurora sat in silence, her heart heavy with uncertainty. "I'm sorry about that," Sebastian said, his voice low. "My mother can be difficult." "It's okay," Aurora replied, forcing a smile. "I understand that family can be complicated, but I don't want to be a burden to you, Sebastian. If this is too much—" "No," he interrupted, taking her hand in his. "You're not a burden. I want you here. I need you here. You make me feel alive again." His words sent a rush of warmth through her, but the weight of Evelyn's disapproval lingered in the air. Aurora couldn't shake the feeling that their relationship was being tested in ways she never anticipated. The world outside the hospital walls was a stark contrast to the sanctuary they had created together. As Sebastian continued to recover, Aurora found herself grappling with her own insecurities. She loved spending time with him, but the fear of being rejected by his family loomed large. What if they never accepted her? What if Sebastian chose his family over her? The questions gnawed at her, and she struggled to find a balance between her feelings for him and the reality of their situation. One evening, as they sat together in his hospital room, Aurora decided to voice her concerns. "Sebastian, do you think your family will ever accept me?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. "I don't want to come between you and them." Sebastian sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I don't know, Aurora. My family has always been traditional, and they have their own expectations, but I can't let that dictate my happiness. I want to be with you." "But what if they never accept me?" Aurora pressed, her heart racing. "I don't want to be the reason for any conflict in your life." Sebastian turned to her, his expression serious. "You have to understand that my happiness matters too. I can't keep living for them. I want to build a life with you, but it won't be easy. We'll have to fight for it." Aurora felt a surge of hope at his words, but the reality of their situation weighed heavily on her heart. She knew that love alone wouldn't be enough to overcome the obstacles they faced. As they sat in silence, the rain pattered against the window, mirroring the turmoil in her heart. In that moment, Aurora realized that their journey was just beginning. They would have to navigate the complexities of their relationship, confront the challenges posed by Sebastian's family, and ultimately decide what they were willing to sacrifice for love. The road ahead would be fraught with uncertainty, but Aurora was determined to fight for the connection they had forged. As Sebastian's recovery progressed, he was finally discharged from the hospital, and Aurora felt a mix of excitement and anxiety. They had spent countless hours together, sharing their dreams and fears, but now they would have to face the world outside the hospital walls. The reality of their relationship loomed large, and Aurora couldn't shake the feeling that their bond would soon be tested. Sebastian insisted on taking Aurora out for dinner to celebrate his recovery. He wanted to show her how much she meant to him, and he chose a quaint little restaurant tucked away in a quiet corner of the city. The ambiance was warm and inviting, with soft music playing in the background and candlelight flickering on the tables. Aurora felt a sense of normalcy wash over her as they settled into their seats, the tension of the past few weeks momentarily forgotten. Over dinner, they laughed and reminisced about their time together in the hospital. Sebastian shared stories about his childhood, the pressure he felt to succeed, and the moments that shaped him into the man he was today. Aurora listened intently, her heart swelling with affection for him. She felt a connection that transcended their circumstances, a bond that was both exhilarating and terrifying. But as the evening wore on, the conversation took a more serious turn. Aurora felt compelled to share her own struggles, the pain of losing her mother and the fear of never achieving her dreams. "I've always felt like I'm fighting an uphill battle," she admitted, her voice trembling. "Sometimes I wonder if I'll ever be good enough." Sebastian reached across the table, taking her hand in his. "You are more than enough, Aurora. You have a gift that the world needs to see. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." His words filled her with warmth, but the shadows of doubt still lingered. "What if your family never accepts me?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "What if they see me as just a distraction?" Sebastian's expression hardened slightly. "I won't let them dictate my happiness. I care about you, and that's what matters." Just as they were about to toast to new beginnings, Aurora's phone buzzed on the table. She glanced at the screen and felt her heart drop. It was a message from her old friend Mia, who had been following the news closely. "Aurora, you won't believe this. I just saw a headline about Sebastian Cole. His family is in the news again, and it's not good." "What does it say?" Aurora asked, her stomach twisting with anxiety. Mia's reply came quickly. "There's a scandal involving his family's business. Allegations of fraud and corruption. They're saying it could ruin his reputation." Aurora's heart raced as she processed the information. She looked up at Sebastian, who was oblivious to the news unfolding outside their bubble. "Sebastian, I think we need to talk," she said, her voice shaking. "What's wrong?" he asked, concern etched on his face. "Something's come up. It's about your family," she said, her heart pounding. "There are allegations against them, serious ones." Sebastian's expression shifted from confusion to anger. "What do you mean? What kind of allegations?" "Fraud and corruption," Aurora replied, her voice barely above a whisper. "It's all over the news." Sebastian's jaw clenched as he processed the information. "This is ridiculous. My family has always been involved in business, but they would never do anything illegal. This has to be a misunderstanding." Aurora felt a pang of sympathy for him. "I hope it is, but you need to be prepared for the fallout. This could affect everything, your reputation, your company, and us." Sebastian's eyes darkened as he leaned back in his chair, his mind racing. "I can't believe this is happening. My family has always been under scrutiny, but this is different." The weight of the situation hung heavily between them, and Aurora could see the turmoil in Sebastian's eyes. She wanted to comfort him, to reassure him that they would face this together, but the reality of their circumstances loomed large. As they left the restaurant, the rain began to fall again, mirroring the storm brewing in Sebastian's heart. He was silent as they walked, lost in thought, and Aurora felt a growing sense of dread. She knew that this scandal could change everything for them. The next few days were a whirlwind of media coverage and family meetings. Sebastian was thrust into the spotlight, forced to defend his family's name while trying to maintain his own reputation. Aurora watched from the sidelines, feeling helpless as the man she cared for was pulled into a world of chaos. One evening, Sebastian called her, his voice strained. "I need to see you. Can you come over?" "Of course," Aurora replied, her heart racing. She arrived at his penthouse, the luxurious space feeling cold and unwelcoming. Sebastian was pacing the floor, his expression a mix of frustration and despair. "I can't believe this is happening," he said, running a hand through his hair. "The media is tearing my family apart, and I'm caught in the middle. I don't know what to do." Aurora stepped closer, her heart aching for him. "We'll figure it out together. You don't have to face this alone." Sebastian stopped pacing and turned to her, his eyes filled with anguish. "But what if this ruins everything? What if my family's reputation is destroyed? What if it ruins us?" Aurora felt a lump form in her throat. "We can't let this come between us. I care about you, Sebastian. I want to be here for you. But I need to know that you want me in your life, no matter what happens." He looked at her, his expression softening. "I do want you, Aurora. But I'm scared of losing everything, including you." In that moment, the weight of their situation felt unbearable. Aurora reached out, taking his hands in hers. "We'll face this together. I believe in you, and I believe in us." But as they stood there, the reality of their circumstances loomed large. The world outside was chaotic, and the challenges they faced were daunting. Aurora knew that their love would be tested in ways they never anticipated, and the road ahead would be fraught with uncertainty. The days following the scandal were a blur of chaos and uncertainty. Sebastian was thrust into the public eye, forced to navigate a media storm that threatened to engulf him and his family. The headlines screamed accusations of fraud and corruption, and every news outlet seemed eager to dig deeper into the Cole family's affairs. Aurora watched helplessly as the man she cared for was pulled into a whirlwind of scrutiny and pressure. Sebastian's demeanor changed as the stress mounted. He became more withdrawn, often lost in thought, and the spark that had once lit up his eyes began to fade. Aurora tried to be there for him, offering support and encouragement, but she could feel the distance growing between them. The weight of the scandal was heavy, and it was taking a toll on their relationship. One evening, Sebastian invited Aurora to his penthouse for dinner. He had promised her a quiet evening away from the chaos, a chance to reconnect. As she arrived, she noticed the tension in the air. The luxurious space felt cold and unwelcoming, a stark contrast to the warmth they had shared before. "Hey," Aurora said softly, stepping inside. "I brought your favorite wine." "Thanks," Sebastian replied, his voice lacking its usual enthusiasm. He poured them both a glass, but the atmosphere was thick with unspoken words. They sat down at the dining table, but the meal felt more like a formality than a celebration. Aurora tried to engage him in conversation, but Sebastian seemed distant, his mind elsewhere. "Sebastian, talk to me," she urged, her heart aching. "What's going on?" He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I'm just overwhelmed. My family is falling apart, and I don't know how to fix it. I feel like I'm losing control." Aurora reached across the table, taking his hand in hers. "You don't have to fix everything alone. I'm here for you. We can face this together." Sebastian looked at her, his expression a mix of gratitude and despair. "I want to believe that, but it's hard. My mother is insisting that I distance myself from you. She thinks you're a distraction, and I can't afford any distractions right now." Aurora's heart sank at his words. Sebastian, I'm not a distraction. I care about you and I want to support you through this. But if your family doesn't accept me, what does that mean for us? He hesitated, his gaze dropping to the table. I don't know. I don't want to choose between you and my family, but they've always been my priority. I've spent my whole life trying to please them. Aurora felt a surge of frustration. But what about your happiness? What about us? You deserve to live your life on your own terms, not just to meet their expectations. Sebastian's eyes flashed with anger. You don't understand. They've built this empire, and I'm expected to uphold it. If I go against them, I risk losing everything, my family, my reputation, my future. Aurora's heart raced as she realized the depth of his struggle. And what about me? What about our future? I can't be a part of a life where I'm constantly fighting for your acceptance. The tension in the room escalated, and for the first time, Aurora felt the weight of their situation crashing down on her. She stood up, her emotions boiling over. I can't keep doing this, Sebastian. I can't keep fighting for a place in your life while you're torn between me and your family. Sebastian stood up as well, frustration etched on his face. I'm not trying to choose. I'm trying to figure out how to make this work for everyone. Maybe it's time to stop trying to please everyone else, Aurora shot back, her voice rising. You need to decide what you want, Sebastian. Do you want me in your life, or do you want to keep living in your family's shadow? The silence that followed was deafening. Aurora's heart raced as she searched his eyes for an answer, but all she saw was confusion and pain. She felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. I can't be in a relationship where I'm not valued. I need to know that I matter to you. Sebastian stepped closer, his expression softening. You do matter to me, Aurora. You mean more to me than I can express. But I'm scared of losing everything I've worked for, scared of losing you. Then fight for us, Aurora urged, her voice trembling. Show your family that you're not just their puppet. You're your own person, and you deserve to be happy. He looked at her, his eyes searching hers for answers. I want to fight for us, but it won't be easy. My family won't take this lightly. I'm willing to face whatever comes our way, Aurora said, her heart racing with determination. But you have to be willing to stand by me, too. Sebastian took a deep breath, his expression shifting from uncertainty to resolve. You're right. I can't keep living for them. I need to take control of my life, and that includes you. As they stood there, the tension began to dissipate, replaced by a sense of clarity. Aurora felt a renewed sense of hope, knowing that they were both willing to fight for their love. But the road ahead would be fraught with challenges, and they would have to confront Sebastian's family and the fallout from the scandal together. The next day, Sebastian called a family meeting, determined to address the allegations and his relationship with Aurora head-on. He knew it wouldn't be easy, but he was ready to stand up for what he believed in. As they gathered in the family's opulent living room, the atmosphere was tense. Evelyn sat with her arms crossed, her expression cold and disapproving. Sebastian took a deep breath, steeling himself for the confrontation. Thank you all for coming, he began, his voice steady. I know things have been difficult lately, but I need to address the allegations against our family and my relationship with Aurora. Evelyn's eyes narrowed. This is not the time for personal matters, Sebastian. We need to focus on clearing our name. I understand that, but I can't ignore the fact that I care about Aurora, he said, his voice firm. She's been there for me during this difficult time, and I won't let you push her away. The room fell silent, and Aurora felt her heart race as she stood beside Sebastian, ready to face the storm. She could feel the weight of Evelyn's gaze on her, but she refused to back down. Sebastian, you need to think about your future, Evelyn said, her voice icy. This girl is not part of our world. She doesn't understand the responsibilities that come with our name. Aurora stepped forward, her heart pounding. I may not come from your world, but I care about Sebastian. I want to support him, not hinder him. He deserves to be happy, and I won't let anyone dictate who he should love." Evelyn's expression hardened and the tension in the room escalated. "You're making a mistake, Sebastian. This relationship will only bring you trouble." Sebastian's jaw tightened as he looked at his mother. "No, Mom. The mistake would be to ignore my feelings and let you control my life. I'm choosing to be with Aurora, and I won't let you tear us apart." The confrontation reached a boiling point, and Aurora felt a surge of adrenaline as she stood by Sebastian's side. They were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, united in their love and determination. The tension in the room was palpable as Sebastian stood firm, his gaze unwavering as he faced his mother and the rest of his family. Aurora felt a mix of fear and exhilaration, knowing that this moment could change everything for them. She had never seen Sebastian so resolute, and it filled her with hope. "Sebastian, you're making a grave mistake," Evelyn said, her voice laced with disbelief. "You're jeopardizing your future for a fleeting romance. You need to think about the family legacy." Sebastian shook his head, his expression fierce. "This isn't just a fleeting romance, Mom. Aurora is someone who has shown me what it means to truly live. I can't keep sacrificing my happiness for the sake of appearances." Aurora felt a surge of pride at his words, but she also sensed the weight of the family's expectations pressing down on them. "I understand that your family has a legacy to uphold," she said, her voice steady. "But love shouldn't be dictated by status or wealth. It should be about connection and support." Evelyn's eyes narrowed and she exchanged glances with Sebastian's father, who had remained silent until now. "You think this is about love? This is about responsibility, Sebastian. You have a duty to this family and to our name." "Duty doesn't mean sacrificing my happiness," Sebastian replied, his voice rising. "I refuse to live a life dictated by fear and obligation. I want to build a future with Aurora, and I won't let anyone stand in our way." The room fell silent, the weight of his declaration hanging in the air. Aurora could see the conflict in Sebastian's eyes, the struggle between his love for her and the pressure from his family. She stepped closer, taking his hand in hers, grounding him in the moment. "Sebastian, whatever happens, I'm here for you," she said softly. "We'll face this together, no matter the outcome." Evelyn's expression hardened as she looked at Aurora. "You're naive if you think this will end well. You're not equipped to handle the scrutiny that comes with being part of this family." Aurora met her gaze, refusing to back down. "I may not come from your world, but I'm not afraid of the challenges ahead. I believe in Sebastian, and I believe in us." Sebastian's father finally spoke, his voice deep and authoritative. "Sebastian, you need to consider the implications of your choices. This relationship could tarnish our family's reputation, and you could lose everything you've worked for." "I'm willing to take that risk," Sebastian replied, his voice steady. "I won't let fear dictate my life anymore. I want to be with Aurora, and I'm ready to fight for that." The tension in the room was thick, and Aurora could feel the weight of their family's expectations pressing down on them. But in that moment, she also felt a sense of clarity. They were standing on the precipice of a new beginning, ready to confront whatever challenges lay ahead. As the meeting came to a close, Sebastian's family remained divided. Some were supportive of his decision, while others were vehemently opposed. Aurora felt a mix of relief and anxiety as they left the room, knowing that the battle was far from over. In the days that followed, the media frenzy surrounding the Cole family intensified. The allegations of fraud and corruption continued to dominate the headlines, and Sebastian found himself at the center of the storm. Aurora watched as he navigated the chaos, his determination unwavering despite the pressure. One evening, as they sat together in his penthouse, Aurora could see the toll the situation was taking on him. "Sebastian, are you okay?" she asked, concern etched on her face. He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I'm just exhausted. The media won't let up, and my family is in turmoil. I feel like I'm being pulled in a million directions." Aurora reached out, placing a comforting hand on his arm. You don't have to face this alone. I'm here for you, and I believe in you." He looked at her, his expression softening. "I don't know what I would do without you, Aurora. You've been my rock through all of this." As they sat in silence, Aurora felt a surge of determination. "We need to take control of the narrative. Let's hold a press conference together. We can address the allegations and your relationship with me head-on." Sebastian raised an eyebrow, surprised by her suggestion. "You really think that's a good idea? The media will tear us apart." "Maybe, but we can't let them dictate our story," Aurora replied, her voice firm. "We need to show them that we're united and that our love is real. It's time to take a stand." After a moment of contemplation, Sebastian nodded, a spark of determination igniting in his eyes. "You're right. Let's do it." The next day, they scheduled a press conference, and the anticipation was palpable. As they prepared to face the media, Aurora felt a mix of nerves and excitement. This was their chance to reclaim their narrative and confront the challenges head-on. When the day arrived, the press conference was held in a grand hall filled with reporters and cameras. Aurora stood beside Sebastian, her heart racing as they faced the crowd. The atmosphere was electric, and she could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on them. Sebastian stepped up to the podium, his expression resolute. "Thank you all for coming. I know there have been many questions regarding my family and the recent allegations. I want to address those concerns directly." The room fell silent as he continued. "My family is facing serious accusations, and we are committed to cooperating with the investigation. However, I also want to take this opportunity to speak about something that is equally important to me: my relationship with Aurora." Aurora felt her heart race as he turned to her, his gaze unwavering. "Aurora has been my support through this difficult time, and I won't let anyone dictate who I can love. Our relationship is real, and I'm proud to stand by her side." The reporters erupted with questions, but Sebastian held up a hand, silencing the crowd. "I understand that there will be scrutiny, but I'm ready to face it. I won't let fear control my life any longer." Aurora felt a surge of pride as she stood beside him, knowing that they were taking a stand together. The media frenzy continued, but they were united in their resolve. As the press conference concluded, Aurora and Sebastian stepped outside to a sea of flashing cameras and eager reporters. The world was watching, and they were ready to face whatever came next. In the days that followed, the media coverage shifted. While the allegations against the Cole family remained, the focus began to include their relationship, with many praising Sebastian for standing up for love in the face of adversity. Aurora felt a sense of relief as the narrative began to change, but she knew that the challenges were far from over. Sebastian's family continued to grapple with the fallout from the scandal, and tensions remained high. But through it all, Aurora and Sebastian leaned on each other, their bond growing stronger with each passing day. One evening, as they sat together on the balcony of his penthouse watching the sunset, Aurora turned to Sebastian, her heart full. "I am so proud of you for standing up for us. You've shown so much courage." Sebastian smiled, his eyes reflecting the fading light. "I couldn't have done it without you, Aurora. You've been my anchor through all of this." As they sat in comfortable silence, Aurora felt a sense of hope for the future. They had faced the storm together, and while the road ahead would still be challenging, they were ready to confront whatever came their way. As the weeks passed, the media frenzy surrounding the Cole family began to settle, but the challenges they faced were far from over. Sebastian and Aurora found themselves navigating a new normal, one that was filled with both hope and uncertainty. The press conference had shifted public perception, but the underlying issues within Sebastian's family remained unresolved. Sebastian's parents continued to express their disapproval of his relationship with Aurora, and the tension within the family was palpable. Despite the external pressures, Sebastian remained steadfast in his commitment to Aurora, determined to build a future together. One evening, as they sat together in the living room of his penthouse, Aurora could sense the weight of the world on Sebastian's shoulders. "How are you holding up?" she asked gently, her heart aching for him. He sighed, running a hand through his hair. It's been tough. My parents are still pushing me to end things with you, and the pressure from the media hasn't let up. I feel like I'm constantly walking a tightrope. Aurora reached out, taking his hand in hers. You don't have to face this alone. We're in this together, and I believe in us. Sebastian looked at her, his expression softening. I know, and I appreciate your support more than you realize. But I can't help but worry about what this means for our future. What if my family never accepts you? Aurora felt a pang of sadness at his words. I can't change who I am, and I don't want to. I love you for who you are, not for your family's name or wealth. But I also understand that this is a difficult situation for you. He nodded, his gaze distant. I just wish things were different. I want to be able to introduce you to my family without fear of their judgment. Maybe it's time to have another conversation with them, Aurora suggested, her voice steady. You deserve to stand up for what you want, and I deserve to be treated with respect. We can't keep living in the shadows. Sebastian took a deep breath, contemplating her words. You're right. I need to confront them again. I can't let their opinions dictate my happiness any longer. The following week, Sebastian arranged a family dinner, determined to address the issues head-on. Aurora felt a mix of anxiety and anticipation as they prepared for the evening. She wanted to make a good impression, but she also knew that the stakes were high. As they arrived at the Cole family estate, Aurora felt a knot of tension in her stomach. The opulent surroundings were a stark reminder of the world Sebastian came from, a world that often felt foreign to her, but she was determined to stand by his side, no matter the outcome. The dinner began with small talk, but the atmosphere was strained. Aurora could sense the disapproval radiating from Evelyn, who sat across the table, her expression cold and calculating. Sebastian, however, remained focused, determined to make his point. Mom, Dad, I want to talk about something important, he said, his voice steady. I know there have been concerns about my relationship with Aurora, and I want to address them directly. Evelyn's eyes narrowed, and she exchanged a glance with Sebastian's father. This isn't the time for personal matters, Sebastian. We need to focus on the family business and the ongoing investigation. I understand that, but I can't ignore my feelings, Sebastian replied, his tone firm. Aurora has been my support through this entire ordeal, and I won't let anyone dictate who I can love. The tension in the room escalated, and Aurora felt her heart race. She could see the conflict in Sebastian's eyes, the struggle between his loyalty to his family and his love for her. But she also felt a surge of determination. This was their moment to stand together. Sebastian, you need to think about your future, Evelyn interjected, her voice sharp. This relationship could jeopardize everything we've built. You have a duty to this family. Aurora took a deep breath, stepping forward. With all due respect, Mrs. Cole, I understand the importance of family, but love shouldn't be a burden. I care about Sebastian, and I want to support him, not hinder him. Sebastian's father leaned back in his chair, his expression contemplative. You're a strong woman, Aurora, but you must understand the pressures that come with being part of this family. It's not just about love. It's about legacy. I get that, Aurora replied, her voice steady. But I refuse to be seen as a liability. I want to be a part of Sebastian's life, and I believe that we can build a future together despite the challenges. Sebastian looked at her, pride swelling in his chest. Aurora is right. I won't let fear control my life any longer. I want to be with her, and I'm ready to fight for that. The room fell silent, the weight of their words hanging in the air. Aurora could see the conflict in Evelyn's eyes, the struggle between her desire to protect her family and her son's happiness. After a long pause, Evelyn finally spoke, her voice softer. I can't promise that this will be easy, Sebastian, but if you truly believe that this is what you want, then I won't stand in your way. Sebastian's heart raced at her words, a glimmer of hope igniting within him. Thank you, Mom. I appreciate that. As the dinner continued, the atmosphere began to shift. While there were still underlying tensions, Aurora felt a sense of acceptance from Sebastian's family. They were beginning to see her not just as an outsider, but as someone who genuinely cared for their son. In the weeks that followed, Aurora and Sebastian continued to navigate the complexities of their relationship. The media attention began to wane, allowing them to focus on building their lives together. They spent more time exploring the city, enjoying quiet evenings at home, and dreaming about their future. One evening, as they strolled through a park hand in hand, Aurora felt a sense of peace wash over her. "I can't believe how far we've come," she said, looking up at Sebastian. "It feels like we've faced so much together." Sebastian smiled, his eyes sparkling with affection. "We have, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. You've shown me what it means to truly live, and I'm grateful for that." As they paused to watch the sunset, Aurora felt a surge of hope for the future. They had faced the storm together, and while challenges still lay ahead, they were ready to confront them as a team. "Sebastian," she said softly, her heart racing, "what do you see for our future?" He turned to her, his expression serious. "I see a life filled with love, adventure, and the freedom to be ourselves. I want to build a future with you, one where we can support each other and chase our dreams." Aurora felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes, overwhelmed by his words. "I want that too. I want to create a life where we can be happy, no matter what challenges come our way." Sebastian took her hands in his gaze unwavering. "Then let's make it happen, together." As they stood there, the sun setting on the horizon, Aurora felt a sense of certainty wash over her. They were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, united in their love and determination to build a future together. The story of Sebastian and Aurora had been filled with ups and downs, but now they stood on the brink of a hopeful new beginning. After facing tense confrontations with Sebastian's family and supporting each other through thick and thin, they had found a path forward. One beautiful evening, Sebastian decided to host a small gathering at his penthouse to celebrate the progress they had made. He invited close friends and some family members, including his parents. Aurora felt a mix of excitement and nervousness as she thought about meeting everyone in a more relaxed atmosphere. As the party began, the mood was joyful and warm. Aurora sensed a change in the attitude of Sebastian's family. They were starting to accept her as part of Sebastian's life. Evelyn, though still somewhat skeptical, made an effort to engage in conversations and even shared a few laughs with Aurora. "Thank you all for coming," Sebastian said as he stood up to speak. "Tonight, I want to express my gratitude to everyone for supporting me through this journey, especially to Aurora, who has been my rock during these challenging times." Aurora felt her heart swell with warmth at his words. She knew their love had overcome many barriers, and now they could begin to build a brighter future together. After the party, as the guests departed, Sebastian and Aurora sat on the balcony, gazing at the twinkling city lights. The world felt full of possibilities, and they were ready to embrace whatever came next. "How did you feel about the party?" Sebastian asked, his eyes filled with hope. "I felt really happy," Aurora replied, a smile spreading across her face. "Everyone was so friendly, and I felt like I was becoming part of the family." Sebastian nodded, his expression brightening. "That's what matters most. I want you to know that you have a place in my life, and I will always stand by you." Aurora felt a wave of happiness wash over her. "I want that too. We can create a life where we are happy no matter what challenges we face." Sebastian took her hands in his gaze serious. "Then let's make it happen, together." In the days that followed, Sebastian planned a special date at a place they often visited, known for its stunning views and romantic atmosphere. As they arrived, Aurora felt a mix of excitement and anticipation. Sebastian led her to a quiet corner adorned with blooming flowers and bathed in sunlight. "Aurora," he began, his voice filled with emotion, "I know we've been through a lot, but I want to ask you something important." Aurora looked into his eyes, her heart racing. "What is it, Sebastian?" "Will you build a future with me?" he asked, pulling out a ring from his pocket. "I want you to be my partner for life." Tears welled up in Aurora's eyes as she nodded. "Yes, I want that. I want to create a life filled with love and happiness with you." Sebastian slipped the ring onto her finger and they embraced, overwhelmed with joy. They understood that the road ahead would not be easy, but with love and support for one another, they could overcome any obstacle. The story of Sebastian and Aurora was not just a journey of finding love. It was a lesson in perseverance, courage, and the power of love. They proved that despite the challenges and pressures from the outside, true love could conquer all barriers. And so, their story concluded with a new beginning, where love and hope would guide them toward a brighter future.